Welcome back to the High Ticket AI Systems podcast. Today I am with two guests, Jess Chan and Rachyl Neidecker, who own their agency Longplay, focusing on something that I think a lot of agency owners focus on the second half after they get clients. We'll get all into it. Rachyl and Jess, would you guys mind kind of just introducing yourself first off, what your roles are, and also how you met? Jess, could you start?
Yeah. First off, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having us. So I'm Jess, founder and executive chair now of Longplay. Started Longplay almost 8 years ago now. Before that, I was a CMO at an e-commerce brand, and really the story behind Longplay was, I was, a CMO at the time where acquisition was really the focus. No one really talked about email and SMS. It was kind of like a bonus thing that brands did when ads we're scaling so quickly. Started Longplay. We started specializing with just email and SMS, and then grew up to retention marketing, lifecycle marketing, and now we're a full consulting firm where our team plugs in as an extension of our clients' teams, and also consults as a fractional executive and strategic partner across all areas of the business, which we'll get a little bit deeper into. And then actually brought Rach in I think about a year and a half-ish into the business when I'm sure as most agencies have owners have experienced, you get to a point where you're growing really, really quickly. There's a lot of revenue in the door, a lot of team members, a lot of clients, but operationally, things feel like it's on fire. You feel like you're drowning. There's 1,000 different things happening. And so Rach came in as my COO and now is our CEO.
Amazing. That's awesome. I'm looking forward to having your experience and your input on this show. Rachel, would you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having us. So Rachyl, now CEO and partner. Just made me partner, I think 3-4 years ago, Jess. But I've been here, actually had my 7-year anniversary this past week. So that's crazy. The fact that we've been together 7 years. And right, 7 years, right?
I think so.
Yeah. 7-year anniversary. Started off as COO. I was fractional. I actually hired Longplay because retention, like Jess was saying, was not a very valued thing at the time in e-commerce. And I was in e-commerce D2C conversion from B2B to D2C and distressed asset correction and management. And I was actually brought in to correct a company, and I would needed some support in that area and met Jess and loved Longplay and everything she was doing and her philosophy and just her as a human. So hired Longplay, worked with her, and then we decided we wanted to make that like a permanent thing. So that was 6 or 7 years ago now. I think it's 7 years. So 7 years, we're gonna go 7 years. And yeah, I've been really happy ever since and really excited to be kind of expanding our product services. We really found that just focusing on one area of like not just retention, but the humanization is what we call it, of like the whole life cycle of what people are experiencing with a brand, especially because everything's online now, can really make people feel disengaged or like the brand isn't very authentic. So the more we can integrate what we're learning retention wise and bottom of funnel and integrate it throughout the entire life cycle of the customer journey, that just benefits the client so much more. And it just increases, subscription, repeat purchase, trust. So yeah, that's why we've kind of migrated to that focus and we really enjoy it.
Awesome. Wow. So you've really gone up through the ranks, starting as a client, now all the way up to CEO.
So I was before that I was COO a few places fractionally. And then I was director of ops for a consultancy before that. And then I was in big business prior to that. So yes, I have worked I was very proud to be promoted this past year.
Amazing.
And I would say Rach is also underplaying her background. And I think it's also one of the areas that a lot of agency owners and also just like entrepreneurs, founders tend to undervalue in hiring as well. As Rach had so much experience before we even worked together, turning around distressed assets. She was a CEO of an e-commerce brand. So coming to the agency space was new for her in terms of like working with an agency, but the actual business expertise, which is actually what clients need. She already had over a decade of experience. And so it's been really a cool journey of just learning to partner together. And Longplay itself evolving as a business as well.
Amazing.
Sweet. Thanks.
Congratulations to you, Rachyl.
Oh, thank
Before we
you.
get too into the weeds, Jess, would you mind kind of telling us what your offer is and how it's positioned and who are you selling to mostly?
Yeah. So honestly, I'd say the crux of what we're excellent at as a team and as a consulting firm is the diagnostics part of understanding what the actual problems are in a business. And then we've also built out all the capabilities and services needed to actually plug those holes and solve those problems. But the biggest problem we've seen, especially with e-commerce brands, but even more broadly, software companies and agencies, which we've worked with as well, is it's so easy to be doing a lot of activity solving all the wrong problems. Um, there's so many brands that come in that are like, we just need to fix our ads. We just need to, increase our ROAS, and we just need to, better ads, better targeting, and better acquisition. And meanwhile, they're not looking at all the customers are leaking out the bottom of the funnel, like Rachyl mentioned. All the ways that they're leaving money on the table by not upselling, not cross-selling, not being strategic in their product development. Rach has found so many businesses where they're scaling rapidly and they're also still unprofitable, specifically because of their 3PL contract or how their operations are run. So the expertise that Rach and also our broader team brings to the table is, hey, let's look at your business as a whole because we know what it takes to run and operate a scalable, sustainable, profitable business. Let's look across all of the business the way that a founder has to, the way that a CEO has to, and help you identify what are the 3 core issues or areas you're losing revenue, profit, customers. Know which levers to pull to solve those problems. And then either we plug in as an extension of their internal team, we train and support their internal team in doing so, or we're bringing in external vendors to plug those holes. But everything that the core of what we do really, really well is finding what the right problems to solve are for businesses.
I understand. So it kind of sounds like you guys are wearing a lot of hats. My understanding is that you guys started off very retention focused. Was it always kind of the goal to get into more of a multi-layered agency that services more areas than just, focusing on retention? Or did you kind of start with the retention and it grew naturally as you were seeing what needed to be done to actually retain? I feel like retain is such a broad word here. We want to keep clients and keep making money.
Do you want me to take that, Jess? Or so I think what Jess and I found, the better people, the more experienced team members we brought on, the more they found there wasn't just one problem, right? So people were like, oh, my branding is bad. It's like, well, that's like a one note thing, right? Or, oh, I don't think that our, product page is converting. That's like a one note thing. But usually like the problem starts so much farther up or is so much more insidious. And it's those 1% to 2% across all these places. So it was kind of a natural evolution that Jess and I would point these things out. Our team members that were awesome would point these things out. The problem, they'd be like, oh no, our loyalty isn't working well. I was like, well, actually, the reason your loyalty is not working well is because of the education bits that don't make sense that you're talking about, or these are no longer relevant topics, or these are dated things that people don't care about anymore, or you're not speaking to them like a human, right? Just like basic fundamental things that were pervasive throughout different areas, whether that's operations, vendor management, product and packaging, specifically brand positioning, any kind of acquisition, growth, website. So all those things would be cropping up in all these places, and we would fix it at the very end result of the problem. And then we were still having the issue upstream, right? So the goal is to solve the actual core of the problem, identify it by, results and numbers, which we should be doing, kind of diagnose what the issue is, figure out which of those things had the heaviest weight, meaning how often they come up like systemically in their business, and fixing those things. And when we started doing that on top of just the deliverables, we were making so much more money for our clients. So it was a pretty natural evolution, in my opinion, that it was us just doing the right thing and us trying to educate people on the small 1% and 2%. Jess and actually my husband love that. What's that book? The hospitality book that you like, Jess? Outrageous Hospitality.
Oh man,
I read it.
blanking on the name, but
So there's a saying that raindrops make oceans. So just that's always in my head. It's like a few raindrops makes an ocean over time, right? So these small things are actually at scale massive problems. And Jess and I were like, hey, we're doing the right thing. It's actually paying off. Let's make this part of our business model. And then people kept asking for it. And then people kept saying, I want that. So it was a very natural evolution of like what we had been doing. And it was very much so within like our kind of ethical and moral integrity to kind of point it out. Sometimes you piss people off, but at least you're honest. And then oftentimes you'd be shocked. They'd come back like 6 months later being like, hey, that was accurate. You want to help us fix this problem? Like the amount of clients that we have that come back is really, really high. So, yeah, that's what I would say. Anything you want to add to that, Jess?
No, I think to add to that is really about kind of living by the like two of many principles we've found over the years on what it takes to build a scalable, profitable, sustainable business, which is one is listening to your customers and two is solving a problem as a business. And they feel extremely simple. And also with all of the noise with AI and e-com and ads and creative and all these different things, it's easy to forget those two basic things, which is your business solving a problem for that customer? And the only way to know that is to continuously listen to your customer and allow that to guide the evolution of a business rather than even a broader business plan per se.
Yeah. When you talk about it now, it does sound really basic. Why do you think it is that most agencies put so much focus on their marketing and their sales and often will just leave their, retention and their follow-up to maybe an email chain or text automation?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And honestly, I think a lot of it has to do with the speed and like for lack of a better word, hype that e-commerce and SaaS kind of grew at over the last 10, 15 years. And there's so much noise with like business coaches and offerings and, all these like playbooks. It's like, here's how to double your business, or here's how to 2x your sales calls. And, you know, here's the next platform that's going to completely change your business and automate everything. And very few people actually take the time to look at business over the years. And you actually realize, the same hype that we see with, AI now happened with the launch of Shopify, which
Right.
happened again with the launch of the internet, which happened again with the launch of newspapers. Like it's happened over and over again over the years. And if you actually take a step back, there's actually only like 2 or 3 things that have stayed steady with business, which is just about, hey, business is a vehicle to solve a problem for another human. And you first need to know which human you are solving a problem for, how to connect with them, and how to develop a product or solution, whether it's a service or a physical product, that is really good and actually helps solve that problem. And when you have those ingredients, business becomes infinitely easier. But we find that there's a lot of businesses these days that don't have those core ingredients. And so you need to do a lot more other work to patch that up. Like if you don't have a good product, yeah, you're going to need to be really, really good at marketing. And there's going to be constant problems because you never inherently had a good product. If you don't know how to connect with the customers and you don't know who you're selling to, yeah, you're going to have to do a lot of CRO testing and pull in all these different vendors and burn out of all those different things because you don't know who you're speaking to. And I think it really comes back to what Rach and I always talk about, which is let's just get the few core things right and do it with intention. And it really simplifies a lot of the work that can make business really complicated.
I would add to that, Jess, too, that something that we're constantly talking about, like you, me, Catherine, she's our VP of strategy and marketing, is that not only is it about making sure that the product is good and how to identify those types of issues, but like, are we telling a story that's relevant to people today? Like Jess is saying, because it could have been that you did great last year. Because a lot of people are like, oh, I had a great year last year. This year didn't do so well. And maybe they're not willing to look at, okay, we didn't get as many subscriptions or we had a big drop off, or like, what are the things that we're constantly reassessing in our flywheel of all of these areas of engagement that will make people feel like it's a product that's customized to them? And or expanding your cohort too. A lot of people come to us and they'll be like, yeah, we know our demographic. And then it's like, cool, but you're missing out. Like these other brands are focused on these people for this reason. Maybe we just try, right? So I think a lot of it is people will, like founders can get like you were asking, like, why does everyone just do this? I think founders or people can get stuck in the story and the identity of their brand, and they're not willing to one, adapt, right? And that's always going to cause problems. Two, they're not willing to maybe look at the ugly truth, which is really hard to do too. It's like, oh, my product in these 3 areas, my first flagship product is no longer working anymore. But a lot of the companies that adapt, like Jess was saying, are the ones that can continue to generate revenue. And reassessing and relooking at everything, like our best practice with our clients is no matter what, we do a full systemic audit on everything every quarter. So even if things look okay, there could be something dropping off on, a small retention flow, or it could be a problem in social, or we could have an issue with customer service, or the website could be glitching. Like, what are the things that we need to just take a really high level look at to make sure that there's regular health? And I think that those things, they're hard to do because it takes time, it takes practice. So maybe you outsource or something, but those are things that I think are basic business practices that a lot of people they think they fixed it and they move on indefinitely, right? Or like, they're like, oh, I did branding last year, I don't need to worry about that. Or the founder doesn't want to do that. And it's like, well, just because someone doesn't want to do it doesn't mean it doesn't need to be done, or maybe there isn't something right, but let's all inspect what we're expecting to be true or false. And I think it's more so being okay with finding bad things and then being okay with deciding we need to fix them. And I think that does sound fundamentally very simple, but like Jess talks constantly about how like business is so much a part of like, especially founders and their identity and like who they are and how they got there and what that looks like. So I think it's hard to look at yourself, and just like that, it's hard to look at your business and to even admit that maybe that was a bad choice, or you lost, $250,000, or, we shouldn't have spent this money on ads, or we did and it sucked. Or people are also very adverse to if they tried it, they don't want to try it again, even if they tried it the first time, maybe the process wasn't right or they didn't have the right foundation. So I think always being ready to reassess everything is really important, and not having pride in your work and knowing you're providing jobs and a good service, like Jess is saying, and not necessarily the pride in like the thing and how it started.
Yeah, because business owners never have egos.
It's hard. It gets, and I always say this is like the grace with having to like walk this journey is the same fire that you need. Like there's an audacity to be like, I think I can start a business. Like you need ego for that. And it's so healthy in a lot of ways. Like that's and you need that ambition. You need that like ability to do a ton of work very quickly, to be very high functioning, high capacity. Like founders and CEOs are in the position they are for a reason, because that's part of their personality. And so they're usually very high functioning. They're usually very ambitious. They can usually over operate better than most people in multiple different areas. And they usually have very ambitious goals and, have that ego, and that can be very healthy. And also there's also the dark side of that, which is you can overfunction. You can do more things to solve for things. When the business feels like it's going down, you can start just doing a lot of things to try to, as a way of trying to keep it growing. And it's usually coming from a good place. And the harder part is to be like, okay, wait, like things are changing. I might feel like I'm failing. Is this thing going down? Okay, hold on. Like, let's slow it down. And instead of doing more, let's try to figure out the 2 or 3 things that are the most important and do less, but more intentionally. And that's really when the character of like leadership, and the art of leadership comes up. There's like, I always talk about like this principle around, there's the journey of being a founder, and then an entrepreneur, and then a CEO, and then like a leader. And they're almost like totally different skill sets. Like a founder is the one who's going to start the business. An entrepreneur is the one who scales it. A CEO is the one that's going to be able to lead the team and add that structure. And also a leader is the one that's able to like really bring it into the long term and stabilize. And there's different growth that a person needs at all these different stages.
Yeah, I like that you touched on kind of the duality of ego. Do you feel like throughout those 4 stages, you need a different amount of ego versus humbleness, I guess you could say, depending on which stage you're in?
Yeah, and I think I can speak to it, and also would love Rachel's perspective, because she has had so much experience being on the like executive / team side, the people working most closely with the person who are walking that journey. And also Rachel's walking the CEO journey now too. So like, I think a lot of it is very similar, but I think at the founder stage, you need the ego of like, I can do it. Like, I believe in myself, and that's everything. Like, you really need that. And the people who are able to make it past the founder stage, which is usually like you have some sort of like functioning business, you're still probably the sole deliverer of keeping the thing running. Like, it would 100% die without you. Then an entrepreneur is like, I think I can rally people around this thing, which is like you start to be able to bring in team members or partners or whatever. So now there's a network. You're still kind of like the center of the solar system around it, but you need this ego of like, I think I can do it, but I think I can rally people around it. Like, I think I have that like energy. And then once you get to a CEO, it's like, I think I can guide people and provide the structure for other people to do it. Like, I think I can lead in that way. And I think I'm personally more in the, like, stepping into the executive chair is more like, I think I trust my way of being, that I can actually trust to stay out of it, and speak on the things that I'm specifically great at and know which parts are not mine, which has been a huge learning curve with Reach. So very, very different. Like, I think that's a great question, Robbie, is like very different forms of ego and the things that you like pride yourself on at these different stages in order to navigate a business through all these different times. Rach, what are your thoughts?
I mean, he's of course always say things so eloquently. I definitely think the things that I observe, and Jess is very right. There's like different phases, and I think for me, when I realized I was functioning like a C-suite executive, was when I felt like I was around people that I did not need. I'm around the best people in the room, and that's what I know. And I need to be able to leverage them and tag them in and empower them and get things out of their way for them. But I know I'm not the best person for every choice. And I think that's really hard because I think there's this almost like structure of what people think leadership is. And it's every decision is made, or every decision is final, or every decision is like, they're the ones commanding everything. And I think that's just really not what it fundamentally is. I think the most successful businesses do a great job empowering the people around them. And I think it's hard to do. And a lot of what people bring us in for is they're like, look, I don't have time for my family. Like, my business is scaled. I'm overwhelmed. I don't have time. Like, I'm the one that does all this stuff. But a lot of things like can be codified. We can leverage AI. We can leverage people. We can get processes in place and get stuff off of people's plates. And that is when you are really leading, is when you're able to be like, okay, I'm letting this go. Okay, this person's in charge of this. Okay, I trust these people to do this. Okay, I have a good enough system and infrastructure to step out of these things. Okay, wholesale is now going on its own. Great. Like, let me back away from that. All right, let me set up Amazon, and then I'll have a team check and monitor that. So it's a lot more about how do you put the right people around you, in my opinion. And I think that's hard because you have to be able to, like Jess is saying, kind of admit that maybe this is not something I know the most about. Or maybe I can even say, hey, I'm not the one that I'm going to defer to somebody else. And there's a ton of not just ego, but trust that takes in yourself to be judging the person around you as the right person. Right. And I think that there's a wisdom and a lot of peace in that. But I also think there is a lot of ego death that has to happen to be able to maybe not be the one that's, the smartest in the room or appearing to be, right? But asking everyone, pulling the right people in, empowering them, and then getting out of the way, I think is when I was like, okay, I feel like an actual C-suite team member at this point. Because I've been a part of a lot of teams over the years, and I've done consulting for a long time, even before Longplay. And I think the blessing in that was I did get to observe a lot of very functional and dysfunctional executive relationships, leadership relationships, large billion-dollar corporate relationships to like small startup relationships. And I think that's one of the things I'm most proud of is even on our hardest days, Jess, Catherine, and I will all come together and talk through things and, agree to disagree, or agree that the other one is, hey, I can't make this decision. I need you to. What are your thoughts? Where are you coming from this? So yeah, I think being around people that can not only give you perspective you don't have, but also answers for maybe even character traits that you don't have, is really important as a leader. And I think there's a lot of ego death that has to take. And I think from what we've seen, the people that are able to like delegate and trust and try to lean into those things, just like we're always able to help them. And the people that really struggle, we've actually unfortunately seen a lot of their companies not last, years beyond when we've worked with them, and it's just kind of, I think, if you're not flexible, going back to the whole agility with your own products, if you're not flexible with your people strategy or your products or your business, you're going to hit a wall at some point because agility is what keeps us moving.
Yeah. Wow. I appreciate you both for going down that path with me. I was not expecting to go that direction, but I really appreciate both of your insights. Rachyl, I think Jess was right. I think you did kind of downplay some of your accolades when you were introducing yourself. You speak with a lot of competence and a lot of comprehension of what you're doing. Do you think that being a customer first in this industry has kind of shaped the way you see the industry and you want to serve clients?
Yeah. How would I answer that? So I, if my husband is listening to this, he will not like to hear how much I consume. I'm a big buyer. I definitely support the economy more than I should. So I am a continuous consumer of content and specifically like unboxing products, what's new, what's trending, why it's trending. So I think it's just incumbent upon me in the industry that I'm in to do that. So I will call it a workplace obligation to shop. But also, it's just something I really like and I enjoy. And I think I think it has helped from the perspective of we were all in house, right? Like Jess was in house somewhere. I was in house places. Our VP was in house places. I think when you come from a place of, what you expect, great project management, good reporting up, comprehension around blind spotting, someone that's going to be telling you the next 5 problems. So you're not having to find out it's a problem because you lost 20 grand and then go fix it, right? Like the goal is that you have a thought partner. So I do think that it probably shaped our business model for all of us and why Jess started what she did and why we approach things the way that we do and why we would rather be honest and transparent and empower people with the facts than make someone feel like, oh, your product's amazing. And then in 6 months, they didn't put something on their label and then they get sued and it tanks, right? So I do think it has shaped us, all of us. And I also think that just we constantly are working to see and be ahead of what's out there, what's coming up, what's trending, why it's trending, and what the demands are. Like direct mail coming back, that was so weird that happened, but all of a sudden direct mail was back a couple of years ago and it's, been doing great. Inserts are now such a thing because of Amazon, right? So like things that were thought to be like so old school come back. And yeah, so I think yes. And I think yes, it shaped me. And I think it's important to always be a constant consumer of whoever your audience is and always be putting yourself in the shoes of your customer and your client because we're all here to, I think Longplay specifically cares about being here to make sure we do an excellent job by people. But that's ideally the point is that we're creating a product that people want and they like Jess said, and is needed.
Amazing. Yeah, I think being a consumer is something that a lot of people aren't always considering, especially when it comes to your own industry, your own field. You have to constantly be seeing what the competitors are doing, seeing just using the products so you know what you like about them and what you don't like about them, because a lot of people probably feel the same way. Um, Guys, I want to jump tracks just a little bit here because I do want to kind of touch every part of your agency. With you guys being an agency that focuses more on retention and keeping clients and raising profits, I guess you can say the back half, not necessarily the marketing and sales. What are you doing to attract new clients? What does that look like? You can go ahead, Jess.
I was gonna say, I was pausing because I was trying to figure out which direction I wanted to go here. But at a high level, we have actually, and I can pull it up as well, but we have essentially a wheel of all the different areas of a business that we help brands look at. So we have retention lifecycle, we have website, we have acquisition, we look through their vendors and their tech stack, brand positioning, 3PL operations. And it's really having that bird's eye view with them. So we've grown up through retention lifecycle marketing, mainly because that's a good place to start with the foundations, which is like, if you can't figure out why you can't keep your customers, everything else you're kind of building on like a slippery slope. So that was a really good place organically for Longplay to start from. But like Rach mentioned, as we've grown up from that, it's really expanded to, well, in order to keep your customers, your retention, your lifecycle marketing is already in place. But what's actually off right now is you don't have great customer service. You're not really delivering on the customer relationship, or you are keeping your customers, but you can't quite reach the right people because your brand and positioning in the market is completely off. Like you haven't really adjusted over the last 5 years with all these different competitors. So we actually do look at that entire bird's eye view, while also being able to implement and execute in areas like retention and lifecycle marketing. But in terms of like how we're attracting new customers in the offering, I think it's very in line with our conversation in the sense where we've completely grown through word of mouth and organic and partnerships. Over the years, we've always like tippy-toed around. Like I remember how every like year I'd bring up to Rach, I'm like, should we do some cold outreach? And then we would go through a whole process and then we would kill the idea. And like a year later, I'm like, should we? Because every agency is talking about it, whether it's like AI or like ads or like cold outreach, there's always some new hype acquisition strategy that everyone is swearing by. And then the next year when, it's the next thing. And I think we've been really lucky to grow from the core, which is, hey, let's make sure we deliver a service that's so strong that we can just grow completely through word of mouth and referrals. And that was probably the first 3 to 5 years of the business. Then the last 2-ish years, we've expanded to doing partnerships, which is us delivering such a great job with tech partners and other agency partners that they see the work that we're doing. And there's a natural like collaborative relationship that comes up where they're like, hey, we want to refer you to our clients because it actually helps us do a better job and you do a better job. And so it's been very organic that way. And now we're starting to explore things like light paid acquisition, organic social. But I'm sure you can kind of see from this conversation, like everything Rach and I do strategically is always starts from the core. And, it's a very gradual expansion outwards that way, rather than slapping on a quick like paid ad strategy or let's do some landing page funnel.
Mm-hmm.
It's always been about strengthening the core offering first.
I would add to that just that strengthening the core offering, but Jess and I specifically do a lot of and have given just a lot of free advice and constantly are looking to give value. And one of the things that Jess had said to me, because I came in and I was like, hey, what does your perfect world look like? And she was like, I would love to just give good content away and really empower people. I'm like, awesome. So it's been a core part of like her writing and what she's done and like her mission over the last few years is that we have been trying to just give people as much kind of context, content information, share our journey, share our story, share what we learned, share things that we find as problems we're concerned about. Because if we can pay it forward, eventually it's going to get to somebody that resonates with that, or we can help somebody out and that's going to matter and they might share. But our intention genuinely was if we continue to give good information and have integrity in what we're doing, we'll attract good people. And that's not only paid off for us with the clients that we have now and the amount of trust that they have in us and the sizes that they are, because our customer base ranges from like go to market, like pre-launch all the way up to 600 million. So like we have a good range of like clients, but they trust us with every part of their business. We think that's because we've just worked so hard to be transparent and empower people with knowledge. So I would say that's another area that we've really intentionally worked on.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part, especially in 2026. What a lot of brands are missing are this exact thing that you've been touching on this whole time, that personal touch. And with our agency, we're finding exactly what you just said. The more you can give before you, I don't want to say ask, but the more you can give before you take it to the next step, that relationship's going to carry you so much farther than any messaging on, ads. Can I ask, what does the pricing model look like for your agency as far as, because you just said you work with smaller companies all the way up to very, very large companies. How do you guys personally work out pricing? What's worked for you?
Yeah, so we have 3 different tiers. So we have our plug and play team. So that means you'll just get production essentially and like some strategy. We have our channel management, which we manage all of our channels. So what I would say is that as far as our pricing structure goes, we have 3 different tiers that we've kind of been functioning. And we have an executive consulting tier, we have a channel management tier, and then we have a like production, like plug and play team tier. So each of those tiers offers different levels of service, different like commitment, thought partnership, analytics, our own custom reporting that we have in house. We have a research team. So like all of those things come at the different levels of tiers. And it really just depends on what that looks like. In some months, because we're starting with the go-to-market brands, they start off a little bit, maybe the first month is more intense and then it tapers off and then it goes back up again so that we can kind of customize a plan so people feel like they're getting the support that they need at each of those phases rather than just like a set, like one and done. It's very customized to what we know might work for them, what we're seeing as gaps, problems we know they're going to run into in the next 6 to 12 months. And our contracts range from 6 to 12 months.
Sure. Okay. So
does that make sense?
Yeah.
Actually, a really good question for Rachyl. I'll answer at the high level, but she's the one usually having these day-to-day conversations and navigating that with brands. But at a high level, one is we always start off with a discovery call and then a diagnostics and meta-analysis as just part of our process before any client comes to work with us. Because we found it's a really important part of just leveling or level setting on the partnership is like, do we see business the same way? Do we have an open way of communicating? And are we aligned on the core problems? Because the truth is, we might see something, but if they're like, hey, we're scaling and we've got AI and we're good and we don't need any help, then like there's absolutely nothing we can do. And so usually by the time a client comes to us, they're already feeling some form of pain point, whether it's we're scaling, but like acquisition is getting less and less profitable, or we seem to be growing in revenue, but it's, we're kind of leaking out the back end and we know this isn't sustainable, or the founder's completely burned out. So there's always something that they're already feeling by the time we even have an open conversation with them, which kind of creates that opening for us. So we usually have that discovery call, see what they're experiencing. Then we do a diagnostics and meta-analysis, which is we get their data, we go into all their platforms, essentially see what they're seeing, and also have that third eye, their outsider's perspective. Then from there, we're able to back into like, hey, here's the problems that you're telling us you're experiencing. Here's the data that we've pulled. We're now able to help you identify the 3 core issues in your business that you're losing revenue, profit, and customers, but also why you're experiencing the problems that you're experiencing. And also here's a roadmap to get from point A, which is where you're at now, to point B, which is where you want to be, whether that's revenue goals or a form of sustainability or a form of stability or a form of profitability. Here's how we're going to get there. Here's all the levers that we're going to pull. And then here's what working with us would look like to get from point A to point B. So it actually becomes a very organic conversation. I think, again, it makes it very easy when we're not pitching a package as much as offering a solution to a problem that they've already self-identified that they have and want with. Rach, anything you want to add there?
Yes, and very well said, obviously. I think the thing that I would say to add on to what Jess was saying is that it really does, people come to us with a problem and they usually have an idea around what that problem is. And usually that's like a quarter of the problem, or it's like just the tip of the iceberg, right? That's a problem because that is resulted in a financial issue because of 10 other small things that might not have happened to the best of their ability over the last year. So I would say that it does allow us an open door. It can cause people to be like overwhelmed. And I'm not good at that. Jess is really good at, Jess and Catherine are like, okay, we're overwhelming them. I'm like, here's everything that's wrong. Here's everything that we're seeing. So like, there's like a finesse that I think I'm working on with delivering those messages better. But I think in general, people that resonate with us are really ready to hear, okay, there's 20 things wrong. Can you guys force rank them and help us tackle them? Okay, good. Let's do that. Right. And they're okay with it being wrong. So I would just say, yes, it opens a door. And sometimes that door is not as wide as I would like it to be, is probably a good. Was that politically correct? And now, Jess, how did I navigate that one?
I think that was great.
80%, yes.
So guys, I want to end on a high note here. would you mind telling me, in terms of numbers, visions, dreams, what are you guys looking to achieve and move into over the next 12 months? Jess, I hear you are looking to step into maybe some different roles.
Yeah. So I'm currently founder and executive chair, so that transition has been made, and it's been really, really beautiful to just watch Rach step into her power and her leadership. And honestly, I think that was a really big goal and dream of mine in starting Longplay is, can it become an environment and a place where people can bring their best selves and thrive and, not just do a great job work-wise, but also for that to trickle into knowing deeper versions of themselves, being able to have a space to be more authentic, and also being in a space where they can just do what they're great at and be celebrated for that, be supported in that as well. And so honestly, I think like Rach, just being a great CEO is personally has been selfishly extremely satisfying for me too, in my dream, and also just witnessing her as a friend and as a partner in doing this together. And then also I think outside of that, it's also allowed me to kind of shift my relationship with Longplay. I think with a lot of founders, you can get to a point where you kind of hate your own business or just get burnt out by it. And it's been a huge learning curve of like, how much do I need to allow myself to step out of the business um, from an identity standpoint so that I could fall back in love with it. And I found that every time I've detached from Longplay and let go of certain responsibilities, I've actually fallen in love with it again and actually had more energy and more creativity to give back to it, which leads to its own growth. So that's been really, really
It's
fun.
almost like a artist stepping back from a canvas, a big mural, and finally seeing the whole thing.
Exactly. And it's like I think there's so much guilt associated with it, where you think you need to be like in it and just like working hard and burning yourself out and like serving everybody and keeping the whole thing alive. But the truth is, like, I'm learning for myself is like the best form of leadership is to be in a place, be in the state that you want others to be in. And like, no one needs a neurotic founder like causing chaos everywhere. The amount of times where it's just been like, hey, I love you, just chill out for a second, has been so healing and so healthy for me. And so honestly, I think just being able to relate to Longplay in this way has already been a dream, to be honest. And then also in that, just having the space to work on other things, writing, creativity, other ideas that actually create this really beautiful ecosystem where what I learned from one business actually gets fed back into Longplay. And it's been cool just to have the space and the freedom to do what I love and like be myself and know that a business can still grow that way too.
That's awesome to hear that. I think a lot of um, people in your shoes, when they're stepping away from something that they've worked so hard on for so many years, might have a bit of anxiety or nerves to see where it goes. But it's really awesome to hear that you're able to step away and feel confident in the direction it's going. And obviously, you have a great leader beside you that you can rely on. So that's awesome. Congratulations.
It's only possible with Rach. You need a good person.
I appreciate that. I would say that something I think is really important for people to do when they're coming into a business with the founder, and something that, like, being a founder is hard. And there's, like Jess was saying, there's a lot of people that end up hating their creation. And something I asked her was, what do you want this to be? And she was like, I want it to be a place where everyone that's here is happy and able to do their job, and also able to like live other dreams and to feel fulfilled and to feel calm. And one of the things that she asked me, and I told her, my goal is just to have this be something that I can, like, I've always wanted to kind of have a team where I can go in and rescue good businesses, and we've gotten it there. Like, we've worked really hard to satiate those goals. I think our goals weren't as numerically driven. Like, you might not want me to say this, Jess, but we built an app and she hated it for a minute and now she's back to kind of loving it. But like, we did that. Like, that was something she wanted to do. It was a goal. We did it. And our goals have been a lot less tangible, as far as like, we need 100 clients. We need, this much money. We need this much each quarter. And it's been more about, we want to accomplish these things. And how do we do that? And then, okay, what do we also need to do to make sure we take care of our team and we're responsible business owners, right? But it's been a lot more intangible for us in regards to Like right now we're really focused on how do we keep our team scaling and what does that look like? And how do we make sure everyone feels fulfilled? And how do, like, I'm, planning to be a mom. I'm not pregnant, but we have a surrogate. What does that look like? Jess has other things that she wants to do to feed her soul. Like, how do we make sure we accommodate that? So it's more about what is the life that we're wanting to live and then run a good business that's like morally and ethically sound. And a lot of our clients, almost actually all of them right now, have a give back component, a sustainability mission. They're people we like working with. That was like a big thing we built our business around. So I would say to add to that, like our goals were less, while they are still, we have KPIs, we have things we need to do for our business. We manage our cash flow very tightly. Jess always jokes that I'm like the cheapest person in the world.
But you're the biggest spender.
That's personal.
That's interesting. No one's ever called that out before. That's wild.
Yeah, that's a personal problem. When it comes to our business, I'm very cheap. So what I would say is we made our business about what do we need it to be on top of what do we want to do and what our goals we want to meet over time. And I think Jess and I are very okay with slow scaling. I think so many people want those vanity metrics, and Jess and I would rather make sure that we were happy and that we had what we needed each day than it being like this massive pressure of these vanity metrics and then we're not profitable, which is so many people around us, right? Like, and we didn't want to be that. And if we're going to tell people not to be that, we don't want to be that. So we've worked very hard to live by those things. We're not perfect, but I would say that those are things that metrics and goals that we set out when we started working together that we measure success by. Do you agree with that, Jess?
100%.
I see that this has been an awesome conversation. I really mean that. I was not expecting some of the avenues that we ended up going down. Wasn't in my script, but I really appreciate all of your insights. And I'm not sure how often you guys get to kind of sit back and reflect on your own journeys and your journey together. But I hope when you do, you realize that you guys actually have a really beautiful story, and it's resulted in something not only unique but powerful, and seems to be providing you as well as many others with the lives and the work that they want to be doing and want to be living. So just major props to that. It's been awesome having you on the podcast. If anyone wants to dive more into Longplay or get in contact with either of you, what's the best route? Where can you guys where can they find you?
Yeah, longplaybrands.com. So the best place for links to everything. We're also pretty active on LinkedIn as well. So just Jess Chan and Rachyl Neidecker on LinkedIn, and then also longplay_brands on Instagram and Jess Chan on Instagram as well. But all of that is going to be linked on our website, which is probably the easiest place.
Amazing. Guys, I genuinely appreciate you getting into the weeds on not only the technical aspects of your business, but also on some of the theory and philosophy that goes on behind it. That's something that not a lot of people get to hear. And to everyone listening, that's the episode. We will see you on the next one.
Thank you.